Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next generation of expansion hosted by your MAPS coach, Chris Suarez. If you have any questions for Chris, please type them into the questions box, and we'll address those near the end of the webinar today, or as Chris asked for participation. The webinar is being recorded, and you will automatically receive this recording by the end of the day today. This recording can be shared with team members and colleagues that may be interested in the content of this webinar. Following the webinar, any questions can be directed to fasttrack@kw.com. That's FASTTRACK at kw.com. That's all for me, Chris. You can take it away.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Paige. Thanks for the quick intro, and welcome all of our attendees that are hopped on here for the next 30-40 minutes or so as we really take on this topic of the next generation of expansion. Just to introduce myself real quick, and then I want to jump in and respect everyone's time, but just as a way of review, many of you I know, and we've met personally, or we've gone to expansion systems orientation together. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Chris Suarez. I'm a MAPS coach with MAPS and Keller Williams. I'm an OP here in Portland and a couple market centers, and owner of some few other market centers. I am on a regional level, launching KW Costa Rica with some partners in Gary's mastermind group. And right now we're expanding currently across the country. We are in about 10 states, a couple different countries. We did about $3.5 million in GCI last year. Last year was our first full year in expansion, although we had expanded a year before that, partway through the year, and have been really focused on expansion, coaching in expansion, being a real student of expansion for really 18, 19 months before that, before we ever put an expansion team on the ground. So our goal really today is to talk a little bit about expansion, what it is, what the next generation of expansion looks like, and really what is this MAPS coaching program as well, Build Your Business to Expand. As we brought ESO, and as Keller Williams brought expansion systems orientation throughout the country over the last few years, really pushing the education and mindset around expansion, what we realized is a lot of people have interest in it. A lot of people are jumping into it. A lot of other agents feel like, well, maybe I'm not quite there yet. Maybe I'm not quite ready to expand. But what happens now? What happens next month, next year? What happens while I'm expanding in between going to ESO and execution? And really what MAPS wanted to do, and what Keller Williams wanted to do, was bring us just a consistent conversation, really a weekly conversation around expansion coaching, expansion development, so that we had a collaborative environment to grow with other people, to collaborate with other people, and to learn from those that are doing it. So I start often as I talk about expansion with one of my favorite quotes from Gary Keller around expansion. And for those of you heading to family reunion, hopefully that's all of us, but for those of you heading there just in a couple weeks, there's going to be some phenomenal opportunities to hear Gary's perspective on expansion. Hear Gary interview 4 or 5 of the top expansionists right now in the country as well. So I'll grab some days and times for you in a minute here and get you those. But Gary Keller early on said this, that expansion is the inevitable, right? Is the inevitable next evolution in real estate. Expansion is the inevitable next evolution in real estate. Now, we have to go back for a second. So go back with me to 2004 when MREA really was published. MREA had set a new bar for the real estate industry and the real estate agent, right? All of a sudden, we started talking about earning and netting and then receiving $1 million. Now, in the next iteration, MREA 2, we're going to be talking about giving $1 million, which is phenomenal. But expansion for Keller Williams was really positioning us as real estate agents to raise that bar, to not be content necessarily with one location where you could earn $1 million. But Gary said, well, why couldn't a real estate agent, why couldn't a real estate business really expand to do that in multiple locations? And sure enough, in 2017, many expansionists saw multiple locations bringing in a gross and then a net of $1 million. According to Gary, he uses this word inevitable. And I take a step back and say, well, what does that mean? It means that expansion or growth would be a natural part of a real estate business owner's path, right? That growth is inevitable. That growth is natural. So whether we want to avoid it, whether we expect it, whether we prefer not to, or whether we're pushing to make it happen, it will. It will. So what does evolution mean? If it's the next evolution, evolution is a process, right? By definition, and we're not talking about, right, the scientific theory of evolution, but just evolution as the word as definition. It doesn't happen overnight. It's years. It is a year-long process, and as it takes shape, it takes different forms. Yes. I will tell you, expansion looks different today than it did a couple years ago, maybe even a year ago. And I guarantee you it'll look different a year from today as well. And so because of that, what Gary and Keller Williams realized is, well, we need to have these conversations consistently to see what's happening, what shape is it taking, and are we evolving with it? So it's because of that definition that it's imperative, it's important for us to be committed to sharing, to become students of our industry, to build with the ability to pivot and change as well. And it's what expandable really means. Well, why is it the next step? Why is it the next evolution? Is it just another opportunity? Gary Keller always says that we have to define what opportunity means for us by looking at where we are right now, where we're at in our business, where we're at in our personal life, and it has to be your next opportunity. What I will tell you is, if you are a real estate agent moving towards becoming a real estate business owner, moving towards becoming a millionaire, right? Expansion is absolutely your next opportunity. We have to define that for ourselves. Why is expansion Gary's legacy, as he mentions? Because he's passionate about making sure the real estate agent has an unlimited income potential, has every opportunity that any other business owner would have within our industry. And it's because of that it has become his focus and his drive, right? Pairing technology with expansion. So what is it? What is expansion? Here's how we're going to define it. And we're going to take this conversation. You're going to see how this conversation is going to consistently show up week after week after week within our expansion community. Gary and Keller Williams defines expansion when an expansion agent, that's you, right? That's me. That's any real estate agent. When an expansion agent carefully selects an expansion partner, now that's someone we're going to get into business with. That's someone we're going to partner with to open up an expansion business, right? The third leg or the third piece, to open up an expansion business in a different marketplace, in a different market center that is powered and supported by an expansion hub. The fourth piece, which is really your operations, your lead generation, your growth center, the hub. Now, we know that every single real estate business inside of Keller Williams is a potential expansion empire, right? Whether that is a driving new empire, or perhaps a potential part or piece of an existing empire. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we need to make sure that every single one of those empires is built around the foundational models of the first millionaire real estate agent, right? The first models that we read about and we learned about in the MREA book has to be that launching point for expansionists. Now, what's happened as we jumped in? Well, just like our regular businesses, many have jumped in and thought, no, this is exciting, this is a great opportunity, let's do it. And there aren't systems, there aren't models, there aren't tools in place. So how do we start? Where do we go? That's an interesting conversation. Before we even talk about expanding locally, expanding with talent, expanding strategically, really the conversation needs to be rolled back, and we have to start with a reason to expand. We have to start with a mission to expand. We call that start with why, right? Simon Sinek has been a master at creating this conversation within business around starting with why and finding your why. In fact, just a couple weeks ago in our weekly calls through Build Your Business Expand, we dove into that process of finding our why we want to expand. But once we attach it to a mission, which is a process, once we attach it to a mission, we really want to start expanding locally, right? Just as a brief overview. The first thing to consider is just geographic location, geographic expansion. And here's why. Because it's the most natural. Gary says, please start locally. Geographic growth, interestingly enough, for our industry, used to be a frustration. Think about it, right? Maybe it is for you today. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I just drove 40 minutes, right? I just drove an hour in traffic to a listing appointment on Monday or Tuesday. What happens typically as your business grows? Well, you say no to some business based on location. Right? As our business grows and we get better, we have to travel farther, commute longer, service business that was referred to us. And oftentimes we tend to not want to do that, not provide the same level of service, or start turning business down geographically as our business grows. Now, expansion says don't do that. Expansion says let's expand locally so that our business can grow naturally as we do. So ideally, expansion should happen initially, locally, geographically. The second thing to consider is expanding with talent. Second, we should be expanding with someone that you know is talent, right? Talent that you'd want to be in business with, talent that might show up in your life, talent that perhaps is in your business today and decides to leave. So you're convinced that they're talent, you know they're talent. Right? Maybe they're leaving because they're getting transferred. Someone in their family is getting transferred. Maybe they're leaving because they're retiring to a warmer climate, right? Maybe they're leaving because Portland's full of rain and they want to go to the sun. Yes, that happened to me. So one of the greatest opportunities in expansion is to not put borders on your business and not put borders on your talent. And then the third way to get started is expanding strategically. What might that look like? Well, perhaps your average sales price is $250 right now, and you'd love it to be $350, or you'd love it to be $550. That may not ever happen in your current location. So you would strategically expand based on price point. Perhaps you'd strategically expand to take advantage of new construction in a nearby town or area, take advantage of industry growth. Right here in Portland, Amazon's announced potential expansion in cities up and down I-5, right? 30 minutes away, an hour away, 3 hours away. Perhaps expansion strategically around industry growth and job growth makes sense. Maybe language. Maybe you speak a second language and there's a community nearby that you could service, or one of your buyer's agents could service. Maybe it's property type strategy. You want to get into a condo market, the vineyard market, farm and ranch market. Maybe it's feeder communities. Right now, actively, we are looking for talent because we strategically want to expand over to the coast, right? It's only an hour and 15 minutes away. A lot of Portlanders own second homes there. A lot of our current clients have second homes there that we want to be able to service. We also want to go 2 hours in the other direction, to the desert, to the sun, right? To Bend. So strategically, we may look to expand with talent. Well, once we figure out how do I get started, the why comes back up. There are 3 reasons why Gary Keller says we should want to expand. They're in front of you. The first one's increasing profits. The second one's expanding the vision of your business. And the third one's deepening your bench. Let's talk about all 3. First and foremost, right, business should be for profit. Right, we should want to grow and be profitable in our growth. Gary has shared with our group and actually shared with us even in expansion systems orientation that a group of expansionists sat down and wrote. He shares the typical franchising experience or the franchising profits of fast food. And I think it's an eye-opening discussion. The typical capital investment for a fast food restaurant. How much does someone have to invest typically? Capital, about $750,000. That's a big number, guys, right? 750,000. And what does that go into? It goes into supplies. It goes into the franchise costs. It goes into staffing. It goes into equipment, right? You're going to invest about 750,000. What do you expect in annual revenue? Well, the average fast food restaurant, their annual revenue was about 900 grand. Yep, you've been there, you've paid them. It's about $900,000 worth of hamburgers every year, annual revenue. The average annual profit of those franchises is about $75,000. Now let's revisit those numbers. Capital investment 750, annual revenue 900, annual profit 75,000. There's a lot of overhead, a lot of salary, right? A lot of supplies, a lot of equipment. You're renting, right? So it's your annual profit is 75,000, and that is why you often find franchise owners, right, owning multiple McDonald's or multiple Subways or multiple Burger Kings, right? They don't own one. $75,000 isn't worth the headache of owning one. If you can nail one, you open a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth. Why is it any different in real estate? Interestingly enough, to own one of those franchises, you have to have a net worth of about $1.5 million. That's typically what their paperwork says. They want net worth on paper $1.5 million. So let's go back to some of those returns. Your expected return is about 10%, right? You capitalize $750,000 and your average profit of a fast food restaurant is $75,000, 10% annual return. It will take you 10 years to earn back that capital investment. The profit margin is 8.3%, right? 75,000 profit, 900 in revenue, 8.3%. Guys, as we talk about expansion, it confirms to us that our industry is one of the most profitable, biggest opportunity industries out there. And that's why so many people want into your space. That's why technology wants into your space. That's why people are trying to get into the real estate space, because the opportunity is huge. Now, expansion makes our opportunity even bigger. Aside from profit, right? Gary says, well, profit will come from customer acquisition, right? You're adding people to your database. Profit will come from economies of scale. You're going to spread your fixed costs. You're going to spread your salaries. You're going to spread your technology spend. You're going to attract higher quality talent, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And you're going to build brand awareness locally, regionally, statewide, and then nationally. So increased profits, huge reason why you should expand. Second, it's the expansion of your vision. Expanding the vision of your business. Gary Keller says, don't grow in order to succeed. So if you think, man, I want to be successful, I better grow. Pull back, right? Pull back. Instead, he said, succeed first and let success force you to grow. Here's what he means by that. Our goal in Build Your Business to Expand is, whether you're ready to expand or not, make sure that you have operational systems in place, lead generation systems in place, right? Growth systems in place, and models to follow. So whether you're ready to grow because you've succeeded, or you're on the path of gaining success such that you can grow, we want to live this Gary Keller statement. Don't grow in order to succeed. Succeed first and let success force you to grow. I will tell you that my business was modeled around MREA. It's the only thing I know. I started in this company as a team leader coaching MREA, right? And then that's how I became the OP, and that's how I got back into production and launched a residential real estate team. But it wasn't until the 5th year in a row that we had net $1 million in residential real estate that I said, okay, here's a successful business. Now let's succeed. Now that success has forced us to grow. We are forced to grow because this model and system is working. Let's deliver this model and system elsewhere. And that is our mission behind Build Your Business to Expand. When Gary was planning the growth of KW, he realized that expansion was the key, not only to expanding the vision of the company, right, from the city to the state to the country, but it was also his vision of giving financial opportunity to himself and his team members. And that's been an incredibly fun ride, right? This expanding my vision to allow the vision of my team members and my business partners to continue to grow it. We'll talk a lot about that in our coaching. What would extraordinary growth look like to you in your business? Well, what does extraordinary growth look like to your partners in your business? What would that growth do for your family? What does it do for their family? What opportunities do you have? What opportunities do they have? It's this vision development that matters. And the third part, which happens naturally, is deepening our bench. In the book, Million Dollar Habits, author, I believe, last name Ringer, his first name will come to me in a second. But the author said that the number one habit that all millionaires have, or actually have to have, because, right, they have to have this mindset, is a reality mindset. Their habit is a reality mindset. And he said the first thing we have to recognize is where they are to proactively take action based on that reality. Now, right, we could have hundreds of people on this call right now, and each of us are at a different place in our business. So it's hard to show up to a class, right? It's hard to show up to expansion systems orientation and hear the same message. What we realize is we have to have a reality mindset. All of us need to be focused on our operational growth, right? Our lead generation growth, our sales growth, and our people growth, our bench growth. Deepening our bench is a reality mindset. Gary talks a lot about how we go from I to we to they to theirs. I, we, they, theirs. No one succeeds alone. One of the strongest missions of expansion is teaching and coaching and training on how to succeed through others. It's a journey. Leadership from afar will show up, and those are conversations that we're going to have on our growth call monthly. How do you grow? How do you succeed through others? And how are other people doing it? So, business expansion. Here's where our mindset changes. Everything that we do moving forward, whether we're a $1 million organization today or we're just starting out, but we have a big goal and a big vision for our business, we need to make sure that what we're doing can be leveraged. Can someone other than me do this? Can it be replicated? Can someone else do this just like I do? And can it be expanded? If I'm doing it at a small level, can I do this at a big level? Everything. Can it be leveraged? Can it be replicated? Can it be expanded? And that's a journey, right? That's a process. In fact, that's why it took 18 months before we ever put someone on the ground, because even though success had showed up at our home team, even though success had showed up in Portland, right? What we did wasn't always leverageable. What we did wasn't always replicatable. What we did wasn't always expandable, and we needed to figure out how to make sure that happened. So this expansion-focused community and program is really focused on taking each area of our business. The first one's operations, right? What systems, what tools, what models, what roles, what accountability needs to be in place in our home team such that those systems, tools, models, roles, and accountability will work in our expansion. Gary says that systems and models create three abilities. Systems and models create three abilities. I showed this with a group yesterday. The first one's profitability. Well, that's good because we've talked about that. The second one is stability. Well, that's awesome because we all want that in our business. And the third thing is predictability. Well, that's even better because with profitability, stability, and predictability, we have a business. Where does it start? Systems and models. So every month, we're going to have a call on operations, on operational systems. We'll interview top director of operations. We'll create a community around operations, but really focus on growth through systems, tools, models, roles, and accountability. The second thing that we need to focus on is lead generation, right? Lead generation and sales. Interestingly enough, right, one of the key players in an expansion organization, one of the key roles is director of ops, and all of a sudden now we have a director of lead gen and we'll have a director of sales. Goes back to MREA, guys. It's leads, listings, and leverage. Regardless of how small or how big your business goals are, it all starts and stops with leads. So what does that mean? We need to learn to turn lead generation activity into lead generation models. That could be paid for models. That could be activity models. That could be agents engaging in lead generation models. So we're going to deep dive ensuring our lead gen strategies are duplicatable, that they can be replicated, that they can be leveraged, that they can be expanded across multiple platforms. What does that look like? Creating playbooks, right? Creating systems around generating leads such that those leads turn into listings, and those listings can be leveraged out. Part of lead gen and sales is also our 4 conversations through the Career Growth Initiative, right? We implemented that in our business a couple years ago, and I can't tell you what those 4 conversations have done in our business. So we're going to build out the rules for those 4 conversations, and we'll integrate database conversations as well into this lead gen and sales call every single month. Growth. Well, I'll tell you, if we're executing on operations, we're executing on lead generation, and we're selling, we're going to see growth. In fact, we're going to need to understand how to interview and select talent. We're going to need to understand how to coach, lead, recruiting systems and models. And once we've brought someone on, whether that be operational, leadership, or even agent, we need to launch them. So our growth calls are going to really focus and have already focused on expanding on attracting talent, coaching talent, implementing career visioning, 30-60-90 success through others. How do you grow through local growth? How do you go through regionalizing your business and using a regional director model? How do you grow through growing through leads, growing through coaching? We're seeing all of that in our expansion world right now. So every month we're going to have a growth call. And then lastly, I would say this, and perhaps even the most important: are we following a model? Right? We know that success leaves clues, but we know that most past learning and theory, or actually we have to move past learning and theory to see how agents are actually successfully expanding with different models. So we're going to interview top expansionists monthly, who they look for, what their teams are doing to create systematic lead flow, when they knew their business was ready to expand, who expanded too early, who expanded maybe too late, where they're going next and why. Like, what is their path of growth? Why would they choose a location, or why would they not? How creating a mission and vision and values has led to growth. And obviously a big one: how do we create and build culture within our organizations as well? But here's what's interesting: unless we have a model, we will create our own. And I will be the first to share that I spent 6 years of my career creating my own model. Now, I had some thoughts. I had the red book, but I didn't have agents to model. I didn't have this consistent conversation, this accountability conversation of following a model, growing through a model, and testing a model, right? Because as I mentioned, expansion, right? We have to grow with being able to pivot. Gary said that building a big business is sequential. And I think that's that word. If you're taking notes, I would write that word down and ask, how much of my life is sequential, or how much of my life do I just want everything to happen right now, or maybe right yesterday? It is difficult. It is difficult to build sequentially. And yet every big business that's successful did. And what we realized was our organization and expansion in general needed this sequential conversation. Each month, layering in strategies for expansion, for launch, for growth, through lead gen, for operations, so that we can slowly begin to build those pillars of our business sequentially, but also consistently, so we can lead or continue to lead in expansion. So what does that look like? Really, and I'll come back to that for a second, but every single Monday, we have a Build Your Business Expand hour call. And by every single Monday, I mean the only Mondays we won't are on national holidays, or if it's a KW holiday. In other words, we're at family reunion, we're at mega camp, we're at masterminds. So every Monday Monday for an hour. I have committed. It is blocked out, and we are going to have the first week of the month. We're going to have a call on operations. It's an operational call. Invite your director of operations. Invite your operational people to be coached around that with you. The second week of the month, it's lead generation and sales. How do we grow lead gen? How do we systematize lead gen? How do we build that? How do we move leads to sales as well? The third week of the month is focused on growth. How do we grow through people? How do we expand with the right agent, with the right leadership, with the right regional director, should we choose to do that? And the fourth week of the month is going to be really focused on following a model and figuring out who's doing it well. There are people in our organization that are doing it so well and doing it differently, perhaps. We'll find out why they chose to grow a certain way, how they've been successful, what have been their failures, what have been their struggles. I think our first interview will be Tim Heil. Right, what has he done well? What has been his struggle? Where is he winning? Where does he feel he's losing? So again, following a model, a proven model that has had levels of success. So every single Monday, it's ongoing. People can jump in at any point in time. You will not feel lost, although every single call then is recorded and uploaded, actually going backwards, to a membership portal on KW Connect. So you will see, if you go to your KW Connect, there is a membership portal for Build Your Business to Expand. That is unlocked as you join that the coaching organization or that coaching group every single Monday for an hour. It's a live call. And then that unlocks, and on the back end will be really everyone that was part of Expansion had access to prior, had access to role descriptions and job descriptions and pro formas and business models and legal docs and organizational charts and lead flow and lead tracking diagrams, call recordings organized by topic. And if you're just jumping in, you can go back to the beginning and listen to every single call. We started these back in December. But what we want to do is raise awareness around this community, Build Your Business to Expand. Whether you've expanded, whether you haven't expanded, whether you think you might, or maybe you think you never will, I promise you the value of building your organization the right way from the beginning, from the starting point, which, right, my hand is raised. I wish we all did this early on. Building it the right way today will at least give you the opportunity to run a business like a business. Questions around Build Your Business Expand. If nothing else, I hope today really helped build some awareness around what expansion is and how to layer in just systems and tools and models for our business. But you can go to buildtoexpand.com, buildtoexpand.com. We'll just link you straight back to the MAPS group page to sign up. And again, that's a call every single week, ongoing throughout the year for about just under $100 a month, $99 a month. Any questions about the program, about expansion? Obviously, just so you know, and everyone on the call knows, Expansion Systems Orientation, ESO, will continue. Dates are just now booking up. Our goal, Keller Williams' goal, is to continue to bring that to the regions locally. Yes, it'll be done in Austin, but it'll be done in our cities as well. And dates and cities are being added as we speak. I can't see the questions page, but if anyone's typed in a question, do you want to read those real quick? If not, that's fine too.
I'm not seeing any questions. Would anyone like to type in some questions into the questions box in your taskbar?
What I will say is this, while we wait, right now we have a community of a few hundred people showing up weekly, which has created a really cool space for collaborating. I will say that probably a third of the people have not expanded. A third of the people maybe have expanded once, and a third of the people have multiple expansions. So it's an incredible blend of depending on where you're at in your business. I know some people are listening into those calls just because they want to make sure that they're building their business, regardless of how small, the right way around those models. Expansion Systems Orientation was probably the greatest course that I had ever been through as a business owner, because, and the first time I went, I had no intention to expand, but it showed me where I was winning in my business and where the holes were in my business as a real estate agent. So if there aren't any questions, what I would encourage everyone to do is just log on to buildtoexpand.com. There's a quick video as well as an outline of how the program's set up and the value of the program and what we go through. And also, like I really mean this, that I'm an engaged coach. So if you have questions, please feel free to just reach out. My email address, and I'll actually go back all the way to the beginning, is right there on your screen, coach@experiencegrowth.com. That's my personal email. It goes straight to me. You can find me on Facebook as well and message me there if that's easier. But feel free to shoot me an email if you have questions about the program, if you have questions about structure as well. Paige gave the maps email as well if you have have some questions about signing up or anything like that. Other than that, I appreciate everybody showing up. I appreciate people taking time out of their day to care about building the business the right way, and to just learn a little bit more about what expansion is and what the next generation of expansion is. Cool. Paige, are we good?
Yes, I do see one good question here from Heather. So every month you cover the same topics, just build on the ideas, is her question?
Yeah, great question. Yes. So every month we're going to have an organizational or operational call, a lead generation call, a growth call, and an interview follow the model call. And the purpose of that is to continue building those systems and organization, whether it's accountability, whether it's how to lead organizational people, same thing. So every single month we're going to follow this rhythm of making sure that the 3 pillars and really the 3 key hires are built for success. So yes, we will follow that same rhythm of call topic. It's going to go from organizational and operational, lead generation and sales, growth, and following the model.
Okay, well, that looks like about it. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. Again, folks, he gave you his personal email address. And if you have any further questions, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you.